First at 4, no verdict, but we're hearing some questions from the jury in the Jennifer Crumbley trial. A live update from the courthouse is coming right up. Also, stopping water shutoffs. A new coalition is pushing for legislation to protect low-income residents. But where will the money come from? And overseas, Britain's King Charles is facing a new health challenge. It's one word that scares so many families. We'll talk about what we know so far. Plus, here's Ron Hilliard.
We have the return of sunshine tomorrow, but first, the return of some fog tonight, and with that, the potential for freezing fog. We're going to talk all about that and more first at 4.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News First at 4 starts now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kimberly Gill. Karen Drew is on a special assignment. We'll get with her a little bit later in the broadcast. But first at 4, we're watching and waiting for a verdict in the Jennifer Crumbley trial. Jurors started deliberating about 10:15 this morning. Since then, they've come back to ask the judge 2 questions. We'll talk about those questions in just a second. There are 6 men and 6 women in the jury room with 5 alternates standing by. Jurors are considering 4 charges of involuntary manslaughter against Crumbley in the deaths of 4 Oxford High School students shot to death by her son. Sean Lade joins us now. Sean, you've been at court all day. Tell us about those questions coming from the jury today.
Good afternoon at this 4 o'clock hour, Kimberly. Yes, a question right away, right out of the chute here, getting the case, as you mentioned, at 10:15 this morning, going back to the jury room, and then close to lunch hour, so deliberating maybe an hour or so, the jury came back with a question for the judge about the theories that the prosecution put forth on involuntary manslaughter. Theory number 1 is that Jennifer Crumbley allegedly did not store the handgun that was purchased for her son or the ammo in such a way that he could not get it, and that led to the 4 deaths and 7 injuries at Oxford High School. Second question, we were inside the courtroom, and that brought the judge to bring the jury in. Very interesting question, saying the jury wanted to know from the judge, if the prosecution did not put the shooter on the witness stand, how much should they be looking into that matter? The fact that they didn't bring someone on the witness stand, the shooter, the judge says you can only weigh, you can only look at what's been presented to you as evidence. She let evidence and exhibits into the trial, lots of witnesses, including Jennifer Crumbley herself. They're told you cannot look at things outside of the scope. Doesn't matter who was not called to the stand or what was not brought in. She said, only look at the evidence in front of you right now. They're still in there, and we're still waiting for a verdict. Yeah. Could be any minute, could be days. We don't know. We're trying to get an indication, feeling on that right now, Kimberly.
Yeah, okay. Sean, we appreciate your report, and we will be checking with you throughout this broadcast and later ones right here on Local 4. And as Sean said, when there's a verdict, we'll bring it to you live on all our platforms. Stay tuned to Local 4, Local 4 Plus, and click on Detroit.com. We'll bring you our next scheduled update on Local 4 News at 5. Detroit police are looking for answers in a deadly shooting on the city's east side. So far, they haven't been able to share much information. Our crews were on the scene early this morning at Shaner and Edmore. Police tell us they found a man shot to death just after 3:30 in the morning. Police haven't shared the identity of the victim or released any information on a suspect. We'll bring you updates as they release new information. There's new criticism and a new defense of a Wall Street Journal opinion piece called "Welcome to Dearborn, America's Jihad Capital." The city ramped up its police presence over the weekend due to that op-ed piece. The executive director of the Middle East Media Research Institute wrote the article. Stephen Stalinsky says he wanted to draw attention to protests in Michigan and elsewhere. He says some demonstrators have expressed support for the terror group Hamas. Critics say protesters are demanding a ceasefire and supporting Palestinians caught in the crossfire.
The Wall Street Journal permitted an author to levy dangerous allegations against an entire community, distorting the reality faced by thousands of Arab American and Muslim American families.
Today we find ourselves standing on common ground in which we stand together that this bogus journalistic diatribe serves no one but those who would keep us divided, diffused, and confused.
Stalinsky sent us a statement today standing by his article saying in part, quote, "This is a moment for counterterrorism officials to be concerned about. I am not the only one to say this. This is frequently stated by the director of the FBI and other law enforcement." We'll have more on the new fallout from that article on Local 4 News at 6 o'clock. A coalition of local political leaders is pushing to make drinking water affordable for everyone and create new protections against shutoffs. The coalition says low-income residents should be able to maintain service with monthly bills limited to no more than 3% of their income. The group hopes new legislation would support those residents and the municipal water systems that serve them. The legislation would establish a monthly user fee on residential bills, similar to existing programs for utility customers. Detroit's Mayor Mike Duggan explains how that fee would work.
Let's do this fairly. How about if everybody pays a little bit? $2 a month per meter goes into a fund, and we have a system in the state where people of low income pay a lower amount that they can afford. People who can't afford to pay that.
And we'll, of course, keep you posted on the bill's progress in Lansing. As we turn our attention to the first forecast, here's a live look at Southfield, and we'll be talking about the risk of some freezing fog. So let's bring in Ron Hilliard. He's filling in for Kim Adams. Ron, what's the latest here?
Well, there's that potential of the redevelopment of fog tonight, much like we had last night and this morning. So that's something we'll be watching very closely. With temperatures below freezing, we could see a few slick spots. Looking into the Detroit area, we're looking towards southwest Detroit and the downriver communities. Temperatures right now in the mid to upper 30s for much of the area. 38 in Detroit and Ann Arbor. For Port Huron, we're at 34. Monroe at 39. Winds out of the north and northeast. Most of us seeing the cloud cover right now. We will see the return of sunshine tomorrow. So tonight, we could see some patchy fog developing, and with the freezing temperatures, freezing fog again, potential for some slick spots. Temperatures, though, moving up later this week to near record territory into the 50s. Also, a chance of rain coming later on this week. We'll talk about that coming up.
Okay, Ron. Britain's King Charles is now fighting cancer. That's according to a new statement from Buckingham Palace. You may remember the king was just treated for an enlarged prostate. The palace says the cancer is not related to his treatment for that benign condition. Instead, it says a separate issue of concern was noted, leading to the current diagnosis. It did not share information on what type of cancer. The king has already started treatment and is canceling public appearances while still working on state business and paperwork. The king is 75 years of age. He celebrated his coronation less than a year ago. The U.S. Senate is expected to vote this week on a new immigration compromise bill, but will the House kill the deal? The bipartisan bill has several key parts, including border reform and U.S. aid for Israel and Ukraine. The proposal would put strict limits on the U.S. southern border, more than have ever been put into place before. The border would be shut down if migrant crossings go to about 5,000 on any average day. It also raises the legal standard to pass the initial screening for asylum in the U.S. This could be the biggest change in immigration law in decades, but the Republican Speaker of the House has called the bill dead on arrival. Well, some of you may be wondering, where in the world is Karen Drew today? Well, the answer is Belleville. Local 4 is diving into your communities to highlight what makes them special, and we were in Plymouth Friday. Today, we're in Belleville. Karen and Damon Fernandez are taking the 5:30 newscast on the road all week. Hi there, guys.
Hey there, Kim. It is so good to be in Belleville this afternoon. We're actually inside the gym at Belleville High. Yeah. They are having a basketball game. It's a unified basketball, so there's kids with some special needs that are competing K through 12, or not K through 12, through the high school level, and this is really cool. They're taking on Walled Lake this afternoon.
Yeah, you can already feel the intensity with excitement right here. You know, these games are so important to the community because it symbolizes inclusion through sports, marrying teamwork, small successes, and celebrating everyone on the team. We're so excited to be back here. Did somebody make a goal yet? All right, we're going to keep monitoring this game here. But, you know, when we come into your neighborhood, we always like to dig into some of the hot topics that are concerning many of you. You know, in Belleville, Belleville is known for the largest inland lake, which is Belleville Lake. And with that gem comes some hot topic. It's a bridge that's in disrepair, unsafe right now, thanks to erosion in the pylons that the bridge sits on. You know, Karen is going to be digging into the fix that's coming up for that right now.
But interesting, transportation is an issue that all cities can talk about. Also, I've got a really cool story. I had the chance to sit down with one of the #1 recruits in football, Bryce Underwood, the QB who has decided he's going to LSU. I caught up with him at school. We not only talked about how Belleville shaped him, but also kind of what makes him so special as an athlete, how his mom and dad affected him. It's a really cool sit-down interview. We'll be having that at 5:30 as well. And of course, Hank is in Belleville as well. He's talking to folks over at a really cool cafe, talking about their consumer issues. I was there a couple weeks ago. I will say their latte is amazing, Hank.
Well, I got a little regular coffee here, Karen, but the baked goods, as you mentioned, I mean, this place is fantastic. We're right here on Main Street at Gloria Jean Bakery and Cafe. Take a look. We got a big crowd out here today. People coming to share their consumer stories, just to say hello. We have a state rep who stopped on by our event because she wanted to meet the people in the community. And I'll tell you what, we've been working on stories already here in this city. Tonight at 6 o'clock, in fact, Help Me Hank has come to the rescue. People were complaining about the roads in one neighborhood. There were huge potholes and craters. We worked with the county. We had crews out there today fixing that problem. But we're going to spend the next few hours here talking to the people of this community, hearing about their concerns, their issues, the stories they want to see on Local 4. So if you have some time, stop on by. I'm going to be hanging out here at Gloria Jean Bakery and Cafe. Got my coffee, going to grab some baked goods and talk to the people here in this community. We'll send it back to you now, Kimberly.
So awesome. Okay, Hank, we'll talk to you a little bit later. Thank you.